Hey, everybody. I am so excited today. You guys know I've been doing the podcast, Real Estate Her Way, and we've been filming a bunch of segments that you all have seen, but I've not launched the podcast yet because there was only one person that could be my inaugural segment. One person who not only do I love her dearly, but she's truly the authority when it comes to women and real estate. And so you all are seeing this live today. You're seeing that, I'm filming the inaugural Real Estate Her Way. That of course will then go out to the podcast once we launch. But this will be the inaugural Real Estate Her Way. And my guest today is a New York Times best-selling author, the co-founder of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad empire, the leading authority when it comes to financial literacy. She sold over 40 million books. She's partnered with people like the Napoleon Hill Foundation. Unbelievable. She's got 2 new books that have come out in the last couple of years, all around financial literacy and women. Because ladies, it is a different game for women. We are behind the 8 ball. We are behind the curve when it comes to building wealth. There is a $1 million wealth gap in this country at 50 years old. Same education, same job, same earning ability, everything. But women don't move forward when it comes to investing. They tend to hold back. They tend to hold 80 to 90% of their assets, their cash assets. They hold it in the bank because they're afraid to take that step forward. So I am going to bring on Sharon Lechter. Again, she has served 2 U.S. presidents. She's a New York Times best-selling author, but most importantly, my very dear friend, my confidant, somebody that I never make a move without talking to this woman. I did it one time and it was a big mistake. So I learned from that. And there's not a move I make in business and a lot of times in life without discussing it with this woman right here. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Sharon Lechter to the stage. Hello, Sharon.
Hello, Lisa. Love you, my dear. So happy to be with you.
Were you able to hear that intro that I did?
I did. Can't you see I'm blushing? Yeah.
I don't know. You look so fabulous. Oh my gosh. How do you feel? There's so many things that I'm going to get. I've got this whole list of things I want to talk to you about. But when people describe you as a living legend, as the OG when it comes to financial literacy, as somebody who has truly built an empire, back when women were not building empires, women were not playing in this space, like you are truly a pioneer. And so I want to take us back because there's a lot of things that people don't know about you. And so I want to take us back to pre-Rich Dad days. And I want you to talk about the books, the talking books. We were at dinner the other night and my husband did not, and he remembers those books because we used to read them to our kids and they would push the Cinderella button, they'd push the Mickey Mouse button, they would do whatever. And he was like, Sharon, those were Sharon? And I'm like, those were Sharon. So I want you to start there with our audience. I want you to talk about, and I think that was really your entree into IP and the importance of IP and licensing and things like that. So, and these are things, and talk to us about what year you did this, because you were truly a pioneer.
Well, thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate it. The idea of really my entire life is the mantra, why not? Why not solve a problem, serve a need? Why not take that path less traveled? Why not go where no one else has gone? And I remember, and usually when I get mad about something, I start a new company. So I was concerned my kids didn't like to read, their friends didn't like to read. And I said, how can we bring this back to life? And a friend of mine who I knew through the American Cancer Society volunteer work we did had invented the first talking children's book. I have one way up here. I take the time to go pull it down for you, but it's a book that has the sound strips down the side and it makes noise. And it was a time when kids, I know it's hard to imagine dinosaur days. The kids didn't have electronics,
right,
and they didn't have screens. And it was like we were introducing the first electronic toy for children. We said, parents don't know us. They're not going to trust us. And so I understood and learned the power of association. And so we did deals with little companies like Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame Street, and even Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with Marvel Comics, and allowed us to be instantly trusted because they trusted those brands. And we built this global brand of talking books, which of course ushered in a whole new dynasty of electronics for kids. And it was just so fulfilling because kids loved reading again, because it was fun, it was interactive, it was true.
Parents loved reading with their kids. We had so many of those books, and we'd sit with them and we'd read, and we're like, push the button, and they'd push the button. It was like, it was fun,
Well, the modality of education, you learn by reading, eyesight, by listening, and by doing. And so those talking books trigger all three learning modalities. And so it really was something that you see re-energize kids and got them involved back in reading. I was so proud of that. It was wonderful. And we started that company in 1987. And we thought we were hot stuff. The first year we had $1 million in sales. Pretty good, right? Well, then we went to 9 to 23, and in our fourth year on way to 52 million in sales, we sold that company. And so
that was before the internet. That was before you could.
Yes.
I mean, so those books, like I'm sure that I was shopping at Walmart back then. So those books. How did you get those books into major retailers?
Well, it was the trust of what we were doing, and it was also the opportunity to really tag into excitement of something new. And so when we had Disney, those associations opened all kinds of doors for us, all kinds of retail opportunities. It helped us take it to the next level. It helped us not just with brand validity, but with brand expansion, because those brands, Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame Street, were accepted worldwide. We ended up with books in Spanish because of that. And that allowed me to learn so much about publishing, so much about distribution, intellectual property licensing, that has served me well throughout every company I've started. And that's the importance of understanding that you may have a strong message, but don't hide yourself. Find a way to expand your message to create maximum impact through the power of association.
And wouldn't you say, because your husband Michael is an IP attorney and you're always telling me, have you protected it? Have you done this? Have you done that? So it's not only expanding your message, but it's protecting your message.
Yeah. You create your intellectual property, you identify it, you protect it, and then you leverage it. Identify, protect, leverage. And that is the new currency. Intellectual property is the new currency because it levels the playing field, because it's what you create in your mind. You can compete against the big boys when you've created something that provides value and solves a problem or serves a need to the world.
So I'm going to go a little off topic a bit. We will come to real estate, but where does AI come in now and intellectual property? I mean, I've seen on social media, I'm like, this person just wrote a book. Are you kidding me? They could hardly get 3 sentences out of their mouth. I mean, it's very obvious what's happening on the planet. We all have chat. Let's be real. So
AI is a tricky area, and most people that are out there promising to write a book for you in a week and give you the copyright, it's not correct. A copyright identifies original work. If it's not your original work, you don't get a copyright. And so, yes, AI is here to stay. Use AI for research. Use it to help you identify and structure outlines, content, but make it yours. They provide something with you, massage it and make it yours so that you truly can own the copyright. Very important. AI also takes your content and makes it out in the open market. So you lose control over it. So it's really important for you to understand the essence of what copyright protection is.
So do you agree or disagree. Like, for example, right now I am handwriting out a new keynote. And that's how I do it. I write the whole thing out, rehearse it, cut it up, chop it up, whatever. And I thought, well, I'm going to write this whole thing and then I'll load it into chat and see how chat rearranges it. But the minute I do that, it goes into the chatosphere. Is that correct? And now all of a sudden I don't own that IP anymore?
Well, it's now open source and other people can use it and not source you for it. So that's, if you want to protect your original thought, you want to keep it. So for instance, we have a lot of AI companies coming to want to take my content and put it on various platforms. And we read the agreements, and the agreement basically says once they have it, they own it. And that's what, is a problem. So you want to make sure you maintain ownership of your intellectual property.
Oh, so good. There's just so many things we could talk about, but I've got to pivot into, because this is Real Estate Her Way. You sell the book company for how much again?
We sold the book company, and then that's when we moved to Arizona in 1991. Okay. And then our son went off to college that fall and came home at Christmas in credit card debt, December of 1992. And that's when I dedicated the rest of my life to financial literacy, financial education.
So fast forward to the dining room table at your old house that I've sat at many times, where the Rich Dad, Poor Dad empire was launched. How did that happen?
Absolutely. Well, it was in 1996. Robert Kiyosaki went to see my husband, and he had this idea for a board game. And Mike, as you said, is a well-known intellectual property attorney. So Robert walks in in flip-flops, Bermuda shorts, and t-shirt, and Mike's in the upper level corner office in his three-piece suit, mahogany.
I'm visualizing it too.
And so my husband called me that day, and I still remember I'm driving down the road. Back then cell phones were this big and attached to the car. And he says, "I met this guy today that has what you've been looking for." And I'm going. So I tell my audiences, ladies, what would you say to your husband who said, "I met a man today that has what you've been looking for"? And I still remember saying, "Okay, honey, this sounds a little kinky. What are you talking about?" And so I attended the very first beta test for the game Cash Flow, and I loved it. I was the only one who got out of the rat race. And because of my experience in the talking book company, we also did games. I volunteered just as a friend to help Robert commercialize the game. And during that process, he told me he wanted to charge $200 for the game. I go, "Well, that's pretty pricey. We're talking 96, right?" And I said, "Maybe you should write a brochure that explains the philosophy behind the game." And I totally believed in it, because it teaches buy, build, and create income producing assets. Wealth comes from assets, not from salary. And so it's not what you do for your paycheck that determines your financial future, is what you do with your paycheck that determines your financial future. So that's when he asked me to help him write that brochure. And the brochure we wrote together was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. People don't understand that it was never intended to be a product in its own right. But it took the world by storm, and all of a sudden we said, "Oh, I guess we should write more than one book." So we said, "Well, we'll do a trilogy: Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, Rich Dad's Guide to Investing." Oh no, they wanted more. So over our 10-year partnership, we wrote 15 books together. And then I launched another whole series called Rich Dad Advisors, that were areas of specific content from experts in their fields. And so it just took the world by storm. We ended up in over 100 countries, over 50 languages, and we built the largest personal finance brand.
How does that happen without the internet? I know your story. I know it, but I'm thinking, how? You were in Barnes and Noble and probably every bookstore, because you had book distributors, right? That were
lots of faxes. I'd go to bed at night and I'd wake up and I'd have a stack of faxes, because when we first published Rich Dad Poor Dad, we weren't a wholesale household name. And so I found a way to get through Ingram so that every bookstore had me in a CD that they got each month for new releases. And so we'd do a radio show in Topeka, Kansas, and they'd call their local bookstore and they'd order a Rich Dad. I'd wake up in the morning and I'd have a stack of single book orders on my fax machine.
And you had to fulfill them.
Yes, yes, yes. And so that's how we built our business, do whatever it takes, one step at a time. And then we got to the point where it couldn't match the demand. So we found a local distributor that would pack and ship for us. And then we got to the point where we knew we had to have more support because we were totally self-funding. And that's when we ended up having every major player, because it was January of 2020, I made the New York Times bestseller list. I made Wall Street, USA Today, Business Week. Yes, yes, in January 2020. And that's when all the major publishers came to us wanting to work with us. And so Mike and I created the very first joint venture, and we changed the publishing industry because we weren't going to give up rights to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but we were joint venturing with Warner Books. And so we worked together, and that type of agreement hadn't been done before. And now a lot of the top celebrities have joint ventures as it relates to publishing. We didn't give up ownership of our copyrights back to intellectual property. And so that allowed us, during that negotiation process, before I finally decided to go with Warner Books, is when we got the call from Oprah. In March of 2020, we were on Oprah. And so luckily, Warner Books agreed to help us print and ship 350,000 copies of Rich Dad Poor Dad even before we had a signed agreement. And so I will forever be grateful to Warner Books. And so we started a relationship with them. And again, over that 10-year period, we wrote 15 books that I believe established the Rich Dad's brand, purple and gold, around the world. So,
And if there was one big takeaway from Rich Dad, and I've heard you say it before, what is it? From the series of books, what would be the one thing that you would want people to grab, the one concept from Rich Dad?
Financial freedom is only attained at the point when the income from your income producing assets exceed your monthly expenses. That is the message I wanted the world to hear. When I met Robert, he had 2 small apartment complexes here in Phoenix. He lived in a 2-bedroom condo. He was making $100,000 a year in passive income. His living expenses were like $35,000, $36,000. He was financially free. So to be financially free, you don't have to have millions of dollars. You need to have assets generating passive income that exceed your monthly expenses. That means you don't have to get out of bed to make money. That means you've reached a point where you're getting your freedom, your time back. True financial wealth gives you time wealth. And that's, the message that I want people to hear, because we are taught to go to school, get a good job, and work hard at that job. And that is, you're exchanging time for money. And I want people to wake up and say, invest your time to buy, build, and create income producing assets that give you your time back.
So the obvious income producing asset is real estate. What else is there?
Well, I talk about major asset categories, and that's businesses, buy, build, or invest in businesses, real estate, paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. All right. Today, there's, digital currency, collectibles, and intellectual property. And all of those are assets that generate income. Now, commodities typically are a hold strategy, and real estate, you can have buy and hold, but you want it to be generating cash flow. So all of those are ways. And so a stockbroker is going to talk to you about diversifying your asset categories, but they're talking across stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. I teach people to diversify your assets across all asset categories so that when there's a depression in real estate pricing, you've got other assets staying up. Or when there's a reduction in stock market, you've got real estate that's slow and steady. And so it's really important to understand the momentum of your money. Is your money moving forward, or is it moving back? Which direction is your money moving you?
So with what's going on with inflation today, and even let me stop for a second. So there's a stat that's out and it's on my website. And it's that women, there's a wealth gap between men and women, age 50 years old, same education, same income, same everything, right? If you were just to stack, like make a list of each one. But he has $1 million more in wealth, right? Whether it's on paper or it's in cash, and it doesn't matter. He's worth $1 million more than her. And it's because women hold the majority of their cash and they put it in the bank. Like they're afraid to let it go. The stat came out and it was like 80% women keep 80% of their cash in the bank.
And
How
that's go back to talking about momentum. When inflation is 3 to 5%, you're making 1%. Which direction is your money going? The wrong way, right? And so it's really important to understand what direction your money is flowing. There's another stat, Lisa, that you should add to that. 80% of men die married. 80% of women die single.
Oh, I heard you say that the other day. I have chills again. Please keep going.
And that's why it's so important for women to educate themselves. You know, my new book, How Money Works for Women, Take Control or Lose It. That's the subtitle. Because so many times women give up the responsibility for finances to their spouse. And what happens is you've been married 25 years, husband comes home and wants a divorce. You have nothing in your own name. You have no credit in your own name. And you immediately reduce your standard of living. That household income is now split. You have no credits. So it's hard to start over. Or even more dire is when you've been married 30 years looking forward to retirement and your husband dies and you have no clue where anything is. You have no names. You can't even access your own assets. You have to go through probate because they haven't been set up properly for yourself. It's so important for women, even if you're happily married, to have credit in your own name. It's so important for you to establish your credit worthiness so that should something happen, you are protected.
Yeah. Oh God, it's just, and the book prior to this one was your book, Exit Rich. And that was really a fascinating book. Would you talk about that for a moment? Because that was really that was such an eye opener to me in business.
Absolutely. Exit Rich is really about building a business that's not just successful. And whether it's real estate or a regular business, it's important to have these elements to take your successful business, make it sustainable, scalable, and saleable, even if you don't sell it. The basic fundamentals. What happens is people try and build skyscrapers, but they don't build the foundation first. And what happens? A skyscraper doesn't last. You have to have the foundation elements of your business, the legal foundation, the people, the processes, the business systems, which create intellectual property, by the way. Understanding what your intellectual property is and protecting it before you can leverage it. All of those elements is what helps you build a strong foundation, which generates a strong business that's successful, sustainable, scalable, and ultimately saleable. Building that value creation within your business from the bottom up.
Oh, yeah, I will tell you, Exit Rich, it really taught me a lot. Like I love business books, but that particular one really spoke to me because I've got a business and I've got several businesses, right? And how do you make them sustainable when you're gone? I mean, I just came up with a new succession plan, right? And it's, and you have to think about that. And I thought about that because after I read Exit Rich, it's like, when I'm gone, I'm gone. So then what happens, right? How does everything sustain? How does it move forward? So I found that partner that can take it and keep it moving forward.
Very, very important topics. We've made changes in our estate plan based on the fact of where our children are and what they want and how we can make things as easy as possible should something happen to my husband and I. And that's something, that is really, exiting rich from a standpoint of selling your business. How about exiting rich from life so you don't leave a mess? mean,
Right.
because your family is going to be devastated enough when you're gone. Don't leave
Right.
them a mess. Allow them to be able to make that transition as easily as possible. Plus, minimize the amount of estate taxes that you have to pay.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I want to tell everybody out there, I mean, these books are unbelievable. Let's jump over into real estate.
Mhm.
What is the best real estate deal that you and Mike have ever done? Like in your mind, you thought, I got it. Oh, that was a good one.
Oh, I can think of several.
Of course.
I actually, back in the day of 2005, I think I did a house flip here in Phoenix with my best friend who was an interior designer, and we bought it. We had our partnership. I was the money, she was the ideas and the construction overseer. And we bought a $400,000 property and sold it for 900,000 after putting in 200. So that was
Ooh,
a pretty nice income. And
yeah,
again, understanding the market, and fix and flips are not necessarily as productive and as profitable today, but they still exist. And understanding, when to buy. I just literally within the last 6 months just bought a house out of foreclosure, and I bought the house for uh, 875, and the dirt is worth $1 million. So I already have profit in the property. And so I could put $1 million in it and sell it for 5. So I'd end up with a very nice profit. What we're doing, however, is that this is a property that's very close to our home, and our daughter is very excited about it. So they're buying it from us and putting some money into it so that they can have a home. But
and an
again,
asset. I mean,
it's an asset because they will have equity in it when they buy it from us. I had equity in it the day I bought it, and that's what you want to find. Now, the other thing from a standpoint, we've had commercial properties that have generated huge cash flow to us. So when you ask me what my favorite real estate, it's the next one. All right. Whatever floats my boat, the next real estate deal will probably be just as exciting as the last one, because I believe you make money on your real estate on the buy, not on the sale. And
million percent.
you successful real estate investors buy when everybody else is selling. Right now is a great time to be a real estate investor, because if the numbers work, it's not the interest rate, it's the numbers. Can you make the numbers work?
Cash
And
flow. Does it cash flow?
yeah,
Yeah. What do you think about this? Grant Cardone says, never buy a property that doesn't have a positive cash flow. And
I
it's just,
completely agree. Years ago, 20 years ago, Australia, they were talking about negative gearing, which meant, buying properties that were negative in cash flow. And I'm going, why? Never, never.
why
And
would
that
you?
was because their interest rates were high and they figured they could make it up on tax savings. But no, your real estate investments should be assets. Assets put money in your pocket. All right. I don't ever want a property that I have to rely on the tax savings to make a profit. No, I want my profit regardless of tax, regardless of other depreciation. I want my profits from the cash transactions related to that property.
Have you had a bad real estate deal in your many years?
I've had one that I held that we didn't make a lot of money on it, but it was still profitable. Um, during the 2008, we had a very successful commercial property that we made millions from over the years that we held it with a couple of partners, and had a long-term grade A government tenant that we thought was there forever. And in the middle of the 2008 downturn, the tenant just moved out. And so it was one that we ended up having to short sale the property. And so we quote unquote lost on the sale, but we had made millions on holding the property over the years. So I don't look at it as a negative. It didn't feel good. I don't like to lose money because I teach this stuff, but it was one of those things. It was circumstance of the times. And you can check all the boxes and do well. We had the top tenant, long term, grade A, government backed,
Location. Yeah.
and they left. And then we had a bank that was just basically not working with his people, and they took the property and resold it to somebody. It was kind of a shady deal, I think. But regardless, we were more than whole on the property. So that makes me happy.
Tell us your life as a Arizona cattle rancher.
Well,
And people just can't, but like when I tell people I know you and I tell them about you, they're like, there is no way she has done this and that, and that her cows are sexy. I'm like, yes, it's all true. It's all true.
well, my husband and I have been married 44 years this year, and he always wanted a survival property. So we were out looking for,
Guy.
looking for 10 acres somewhere where he could build a shack and shoot his guns. And nobody would get mad at him. So we were looking. I actually bought a property that wasn't remote enough for him. So we ended up selling that property. But we found this ranch one day, and both of us fell in love with it because it's a piece of American history, Arizona history. And it's a lot more than 10 acres, 300 acres plus 45,000 acres of grazing rights of the Tonto National Forest. But we fell in love with the history. And it was definitely remote. It's 26 miles of dirt, totally off the grid, all solar powered, our own well. And we bought it the day we saw it. But immediately I said to Mike, we have to make this an asset. And so overnight we became cattle ranchers, made my father very happy because my parents were both from farming days. And I was the city girl. I wanted nobody to know that I had that background. And he was quite proud before he passed. He knew we got back into the ranching side of things. So in my talks, I'll share a slide of the cattle, and I go, you see cows, I see assets.
Yes.
Because those mama cows give me babies that generate revenue for us every single year. So, and we built a beautiful lodge that is a property for people to come stay at, do retreats, do business meetings.
It is a trophy property, y'all. I've been there many times. It is a trophy property. It is incredible. She's underplaying it. I just want everyone to know that this property is.
Well, go to cherrycreeklodge.com. Pictures are louder than words, and you'll see how beautiful it is.
Oh, it's like it takes you back in time. I think one of my favorite parts about going to the ranch is getting out on the horses with your husband and him telling us the story of the Tewksbury's and the
Grahams, right? And
this
people have heard of the Hatfields and McCoys. It's the most famous family feud in American history. But the deadliest feud was between the Tewksbury's and the Grahams. And that feud was called the Pleasant Valley War. And we bought the John Tewksbury Ranch. So we have grave sites on our property.
Yes, they do.
Yes. We have a barn from the 1800s that has bullet holes in it. We found big caliber bullets in the dirt, and it's something that it really has. It is a piece of Arizona history. That war actually kept Arizona from becoming a state for at least 10 years. And so Mike just loves the history. He'll give you his short version is about half an hour long. So.
But it's so cool, and he loves it, and he knows it. And TV shows or television stations have been out there. They've done documentaries on it, y'all. This, Cherry Creek Lodge, check it out. It's stunning. I've probably been there 10 times, and it's, there's nothing like it. I'll tell you what.
A little piece of heaven.
Yeah. And, for those of us who believe that we're going to have to live off the grid sooner than later, I've got a one-way ticket and then a helicopter into Phoenix, and then a helicopter over.
That's right.
I've actually tried to talk Sharon's husband into figuring out how we can condo the ranch.
Oh, you definitely have him thinking about that, Lisa. Yes.
I know. And we thought, how do we condo these things so I can buy a piece?
Well, as I said, Mike wanted a survival property. I never thought we'd use it as such, but when COVID hit, we were up there for 3 straight months with our family. So
yeah, it's unbelievable. So what do you want your legacy to be? What is it that not that you're going anywhere anytime soon, but 100 years from now, what do you want people to say about Sharon Lechter?
That something I said, did, or wrote about added value to their life. I mean, that's my dad growing up. My dad would ask me each night, Sharon, if you added value to someone's life today. And that philosophy is still with me. He's been gone 17, 18 years, but wouldn't the world be a better place if people focused on adding value to other people's lives? And My team came up with a tagline for me that my legacy is a legacy of creating legacies. I love my mentoring clients, and my greatest joy is seeing somebody who gets to the level of success they deserve, and that I played a part in helping them reach that pinnacle of success.
Well, and I'll tell you, I know that people believe that about you because I received a call a couple months ago, I don't know how long it's been now, a month ago, from our friend, my very good friend, Elena Cardone. And she said, we're going to honor Sharon with the Lifetime Achievement Award at 10X Ladies. And I said, she's still alive. What are we doing here? Like, what do you mean? Like, it was kind of our big running joke. She's not going anywhere. And, but just looking at a life well lived, I mean, I know you better than most. And, you serve people, you serve your family. I've never heard a person say a cross word about you. You're always there. I call you, if you don't pick up that minute, I'm going to get a call back the minute that you're available. What is it that, if you had to look into your crystal ball and you had to look at the next 25 years, what kind of predictions do you have? The economy? I'm just curious. I think people are curious. Like, I think we're all trying to figure it out right now. What's
Well,
going on with these
it's a
kids?
great question. And I don't have a crystal ball, but I can tell you that, you and I cannot control the global economy. We can't even control our country. And most of us can't control our state economy, even though we might try. But we can control our wallets. And that's why it's never been more important for people to focus in on their own well-being, financial well-being. Because if you can build that foundation of financial freedom, you can weather the storm a lot better than if you are living paycheck to paycheck. And it scares me, Lisa, because right now, credit card debt is an all-time high. Credit card interest rates are at an all-time high. People are going in the wrong direction. They had an interview this morning from Entrepreneur Radio about, the credit card debt and what's wrong with it. Another interview later from the Arizona Republic about Amazon Prime Days coming up and how it's an opportunity for people to get even deeper in debt. And so it's really important to understand high emotion is low intelligence. There's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of polarization in the world today. And it's so easy to get caught up in that negativity. And in fact, that negativity, it destroys our psyche. It destroys our positive attitude. And it's so important to focus on staying positive. Here in America, November is going to be a hugely important month, whatever side you're on, right? Because that polarization is getting stronger and stronger. And, I worry because I believe our country was based on free people with free speech that offers free markets for free enterprise. And I think all four of those freedoms are at risk right now. And it's important for us to take care of our own house and make sure that we are creating a financial foundation that will help us weather whatever storm comes.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we've kind of been my husband and I, been kind of a buying flurry. We just bought a building in our town. And I'm saying to him, I'm like, well, maybe we don't even move into it. Maybe I just lease the whole thing out because it'll make X. And then we've got another problem. Maybe I'm just going to lease this other one. We can do it for this. And, it's that whole rich dad thing of, if the whole world goes to hell in a handbasket, all of these properties are producing income. And to your point, it's so funny. Like, you said credit card debt's higher than it's ever been. Incomes are not going up near as fast as the price of a cheeseburger. But parents are still running through the fast food restaurants, the fast food. And now to go through Taco Bell for a family of 5, I just heard from the other day from a friend of mine, it was $47 for a bunch of bean burritos, tacos, drinks for a family of 5. And then what do? They whip out the credit card, right? So we live in this on-demand world. And I know for myself, I'm trying to rail that in and take away that on-demand. Like, do I really need it? How many more Chanel purses do I really need? How many more Louboutin? Like, how many? I stopped myself the other day. I found there was a new purse. I was like, I'm not buying it. I know, right? You know me. You know me. And I'm like, I'm not going to buy it. And because the reason is why, when I can go to my closet and shop in my own closet and pull out something, a purse I haven't used in a year or whatever. And I'm just using that as an example. I think especially with women, because I want you to say again, for anybody who's just tuning in, might have come in the middle of it, the stat about men and women, that 80% of men will die married and 80% of women will die single. And then we live longer. And
Yeah,
so
the
you
good news is we tend to live 7 years longer than our husbands. The bad news is we tend to live 7 years longer than our husband, and we don't have control over our finances. So
yeah, it's just terrifying. So what advice would you give the girls? Would you say, okay, like let's say someone says, Sharon, Lisa, I don't have the money to go buy a piece of real estate. I don't have a down payment. I don't have this, whatever. Where's a safe place? Or what's a good thought? Like if someone can save 50, 100, $500 a month, like where should they put that money today?
well,
That someday they'll have it when they need it.
it's never been easier to invest in real estate, Lisa, as you well know. You can buy a single property. You can invest in a REIT, real estate investment trust. There are lots of ways, ETFs you can invest in, that you can invest in real estate. The issue is educating yourself and making, high emotion means low intelligence.
Yep.
High emotion, low intelligence. So take out that form, understand who you're listening to. Well, who are you listening? Whose advice are you listening to? Is it somebody who's been there, done that? Or is it a brother-in-law or sister-in-law that has a hot tip? Make sure you're doing your own due diligence and making the decision that feels good to you, that's right for you. However, just do it. Start investing. If you don't have investments now, start it. And maybe it's a small amount every month, but do it consistently because it does build over time. But it is so important to assess where you are today in your debts, good debt versus bad debt, understand where you are in your level of assets, and make a commitment to start investing in yourself. Are you what you just talked about with the purses, are you an investor or a consumer? And way too many people are consumers, which means your money is going in the wrong direction. All right. Let your investments grow and then be a consumer of the cash flow of your investments, because those investments keep generating revenue for you every single month.
And what you mean by that, and I love the whole concept of that, is that you put your money into a cash flow asset, and that's where that money stays. And then you live or you spend off of what that asset generates. So if that asset generates $500 a month in cash flow, positive cash flow, you've never touched the principal. You're living off that 500 because that principal is going to continue to grow. And that is such an important, you teach that, Grant teaches that, like that is such an important concept, to live off of the cash flow or the income that asset produces, not off of the money that you need to buy that asset. I think that's probably one of the most important things that we could teach our kids, one of the most important things that we can do ourselves.
And another thing Grant teaches that I wholeheartedly agree is don't over leverage. When you're getting in that's what happened in 2007, 2008. The world got crazy on debt. And it was easy debt that ended up, when the values of the property went down, people caved. And so make sure when you're investing in real estate that you have good debt that gives you space, that allows you to manage in a fluctuation in the value. Because again, you make your profit when you buy the property, right?
Sure.
If you buy it and you over leverage it, you're eliminating your profit and elevating your risk. So understand there is good debt, but good debt can turn into bad debt really fast if you've over leveraged your property.
Well, I'm super excited. I'm going to be in Arizona week after next. And you and I are going to co-host. Tell everyone about the event. I mean, you're actually the host, and then myself, Danelle Delgado, and I think Rita Davenport get to come in for different blocks of the event and be your co-MC or your co-host, which is so generous of you, number one, to share your stage with us. But tell the ladies about, and if Angela would put in a link, I see Angie's on here, a link to register in the comments. Tell us about that event. It's a pretty all-star lineup, I would say.
It is. I'm so thrilled. And every one of the speakers is a close personal friend of mine, except one that I'm meeting this week. But it's 2 full days of women helping women. And it is also the men who champion us. I have some segments that I'm sharing of men who have been super supportive of me in my journey. And it really is about women finding their voice, standing in their power. I don't want you to find your power. You've already got it. Stand in your power. All right. Be a lioness, not a lamb. You're going to hear from Lisa. All right.
Right.
So finding your voice, standing in your power, and creating maximum impact. The first day is about finding your voice and standing in your power. The second day is we're going to talk about creating maximum impact. And that really, it's a journey through those 2 days of some of the top experts in our field, all women speakers. And I have a few videos and support reels from men who have championed me along the way. But we have incredible speakers. We have Mari Smith, the Facebook queen. We've got Elena Cardone. We have Janelle DeGardo. We have Lisa Copeland. We have Phyllis Newhouse, who is a powerhouse.
Love her.
Powerhouse. She's speaking. So amazing speakers. Rita Davenport, who is absolutely hysterical, will be there to keep us moving in the right direction. Funny Side Up, that's the name of her book. So all of us have the opportunity to learn from each other. And this is the Real Success International Women's Summit. It's the second one that I've done. And it is bringing women together to celebrate women, to understand that it is through that power of association. And I'm walking the talk by bringing in speakers that I know that have supported me, that have helped me, that align with me, that can support every one of you finding that next step for you and your level of success.
Oh, it's so exciting. I called Sharon last week. I said, I'm coming to Scottsdale, like, because this is a virtual event. I'm like, no, I think I'm going to come to Scottsdale, and you and I are going to do this right from wherever we're going to do it, because you're the boss. And so I always love going to Scottsdale.
Probably have a little Prosecco along the way, I think, maybe.
No, not us. I go to the ranch, and Sharon's like, we've got to stop at the store. I've got to get Lisa some Prosecco. You guys, but riding horses and Prosecco, not a good mix, right? So I try to do that after I ride horses. And so as we wrap up, what final message do you want to leave our audience?
Well, I love you wrote something on your Facebook today, and I loved it because it's actually one of my lines. When was the last time you did something for the first time? And that is what keeps us curious. It keeps us young, because we're stepping outside our comfort zone. And so I invite you to join us at the Women's Summit. It is 2 days, dedicate 2 days. It's free to attend. I know the link is in there. Once you get invited and sign up, if you do a VIP, I think it's very minimal to get the recordings. If you can't be there full 2 days, you can still get the access to it. But it is amazing women giving of their time. Okay, none of them are being paid to speak. They're all showing up as a result of my friendship with them, their desire to add value to your world. So please, honor them by learning from them and having the opportunity to find that 1 or 2 things that you can do to make your life better tomorrow than it is today. But in any event, listen to Lisa, follow Lisa, join her Thursday afternoon club, so that you can understand what's happening in the world of real estate. I am honored not only to have Lisa as one of my very best friends, but also she talked about she doesn't make a move without talking to me. Well, I wouldn't be as active as I am if it weren't for Lisa kicking me in the you-know-what a few years ago to say, you got to keep going. There's more for you to do. And so this is the power of women supporting women. And we want to include you in that and have you become part of our community, because you are the CEO of your life. And we want you to find your voice, stand in your power, and create maximum impact. You deserve the highest level of success.
Well, I think at that, we will wrap up today. Sharon, thank you, as always, for investing in us, for being as gracious and amazing as you are. And I will see you in a couple of weeks in Scottsdale, Arizona for the Women's Summit, which I'm so excited about. So y'all, we've got the We've got the link in the comments. Please get signed up for it. And I hope I see all of you in a few weeks at the summit. Yeah, so that's it.
And share it out to all your friends.
Yes, and share this out to all your friends, because Sharon dropped so many nuggets today, right? And she will be the inaugural guest on the podcast once we launch that in a month. So Sharon, thank you again.
Thank you, my dear friend Lisa. I can't wait to see you. Love you all.